Live from New York City, it's the Gary Null Show. And now, your host, Gary Null.
Hi, I'm Gary Null. Nice to have you with us today. And we begin always with the latest from important institutions doing good work for things that are inexpensive and easy that we can do and to live a longer and healthier life. For example, sweet potatoes are a delicious food. They're just absolutely packed with vitamin C and other nutrients and minerals like calcium, magnesium. But also, not just the sweet potato itself. And by the way, it's always best to bake your sweet potatoes at a lower temperature. A lot of people go to 450. I would go to 300 degrees. But before I put the sweet potato in the oven, I would take maybe a teaspoon of coconut oil, and I would massage the coconut oil over the sweet potato. Why? Because anything that cooks something at a high temperature can also change the nutrients inside. They can alter them and destroy them. Overboiling, charcoaling, deep frying, certainly. These just literally wipe out the benefit of the good vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients, enzymes. So the lower the temperature, the better it is. So if you're going to bake a sweet potato, then the best way of doing it is to take a little coconut oil, massage it all over the skin. Why is that? Because there's 3 oils that are very heat resistant. And those are the oils you should use in doing your primary cooking. Always put your more sensitive oils like olive oil in near the end of the cooking process so their nutrients are not adversely affected. Now, when you really want to get that, let's say, sweet potato done without destroying its nutrients, you can cook it over a longer period of time in the baking, let's say 250 degrees. That really is not going to neutralize a lot of the nutrients, or you can steam them. And what I do is I generally cut the sweet potato into pieces, and then I cover that in coconut oil, and I steam them in a wok. Doesn't take long, and that really protects all the nutrients. And then you got something that's really good for you. The beta carotenes are good. It helps your skin. It helps your hair. It gives you a nice source of calcium. But also the leaves, the leaves on the vine are used to make more of the B complex available and more of the vitamins available. Now, we know that these are water-soluble vitamins, and they are needed. And those are in the roots and the leaves. And there's been limited information about how these vitamins are actually distributed in plants. And so they did this study, and it showed that, use the mature young leaves of sweet potatoes. They can provide significant amounts of vitamin B6 and other essential vitamins. And that's what this study showed. Something that simple, that easy to get and grow your own. It's a vine growing plant. And you got the buds, and you got the root vegetables, and you should have those every day in your diet. And again, you can make a nice sauce to put over them. Or what I do, this is just an extra. I take, let's say, yesterday I did it. I took some olives, and I diced up the olives and threw them into a blender. And then I threw 3 types of oil in. I threw some organic extra virgin olive oil. I also put in there some walnut oil, and the walnut oil came when I got a jar of walnut butter, organic, raw walnut butter. And when you open up the lid, you'll see there's probably 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of oil. And that's the oil that really helps your heart. It's great for you. Reduces the risk of stroke as well. So I put that oil in there, and I also put some almond oil in. And finally, a little coconut oil. Actually, I had 4. And then I took out of the fridge, I had some fresh strawberries. So I took the ends off the strawberries, cut them off, washed them down, and I agitate them, meaning I take a lot of people don't realize this, but when you take a strawberry, at the end, you'll see those little green leaves. Always cut those off. Why? Because if you don't, and those are grown in the soil, and if it's organic, then every time the irrigation line hits and it gets water, it's going to splash the dirt up onto that And that dirt can contain, well, salmonella and a lot of other items that you don't want in the way of bacteria. And so just take the strawberry, cut the end off, and then spray the strawberries or any berry with your natural plant-based detergent and then agitate it in water. Rinse it, agitate it in water, rinse it 3 times. That way it's really clean. Because every year, believe it or not, we have several 100 million cases of food poisoning in the United States. A lot of it comes from animal products that are contaminated, and especially most contaminated would be your ground beef, because in the grinding process, you're allowing a lot of bacteria to mix, and that's not good. And then a lot of people don't realize how contaminated meat products are, and even dairy products for that matter, because you're not inside a processing plant, and you don't know if it's good or not. And then you see that they don't always heat things to high temperature. So that's why people are told to cook something thoroughly. But in the process of cooking, here's the bad part. With meat, you create a chemical reaction called heterocyclic amines. They're cancer-causing. They're very prone to inflammation. So every time you have a hamburger, a hot dog, a steak, you're eating something that is going to cause inflammation, absolutely, in every single time. And if you eat something that's less well cooked, oh, give me that steak rare, or give me a bloody steak, then you risk really being irresponsible because the contaminants are in the blood. So one more reason, if you choose or not choose to become a vegan in that respect. In any case, so back to the strawberries. So I washed the strawberries, and they're organic, and I threw them into the blender. And then I put a little tarragon in and fennel, and I use fresh fennel. You know, I get the plant and dice it up, and I throw it in the blender. And then a little pepper, cayenne pepper, and then I blend it. And then what happens is I take a little strainer, I put it over a little jar, and I pour the liquefied material, and all the fibrous material is stopped. It's there. I can use that for anything else I want, including the base of vegetable soup or stew. But now I've got my reduction. So I have now whatever amount I want. You know, I can, that's just, you put more something in if you want more. But I've got what is about a 3-ounce small container, and I have about 20 of them. I have a mint that I'm going to put on a dish, and it's a mint liquid. You know, I got fresh mint, did the same thing, blended it, then put it in a strainer, and then you got the liquid. Now I can spritz that mint over a salad. In fact, yesterday I took pomegranates, which are in season, and I shucked the pomegranates. I mean, you open it up and you break off all of the little orbs, and you put them in a salad, and it really changes because now you got a little sweet and crunchy taste to your salad. Then you put different microgreens in. You get some that are a little tart and sharp in taste, and some that are softer, more mild, like a sunflower sprout, an alfalfa sprout, a mung bean sprout. And then I spritz the salad dressing on. So I make my own salad dressing. You could too. And it's generally good for about a week and a half, maybe 2. And some I can put lemon in, and it changes the taste. That's how I don't put salt on things, because I don't have to. Lemon and lime together taste like salt, but no sodium. So that's how you can make yourself a really nice dish where you don't overcook it. Steam it. The steaming process, once you've covered it in an oil, gives you a perfect, easily digested food that's not harmful, that doesn't create acrylamides, which is the browning process. That's why we are a nation that loves crunchy and salty. Potato chips, French fries, pretzels, these things are not good for you. They really are pro-inflammatory. But if you have a food dehydrator, which I suggest you do, they're not expensive, then you could cut those potatoes, and I prefer purple potatoes because they're really loaded in nutrition, a lot of vitamin A, beta carotene, and calcium and magnesium. So I thinly slice, and you can buy a little thin slicer, and you slice up your potatoes, and you put them on one of the little trays, put it at 112 degrees. Now, anything under 115 to 120 degrees, it's still considered raw. All the nutrients are intact. And so you put it in at night. In the morning, you take it, open the door, and now you got yourself your potatoes. Instead of having a potato chip loaded with trans fats and lots of sodium and brown, so you got acrylamides, which can cause inflammation. Now you got something that's healthy, still raw, but it tastes just like and mouth feels like a potato chip. And then you can put whatever seasonings you want on it. You want Cajun, whatever. So I'm just saying we can be a lot more creative and maintain a much healthier diet and still have some of the other junk food pleasures of the way something smells or tastes and feels in the mouth, but it's all healthy. You could do the same thing with the pizza. Over the weekend, I had some friends drop by for the afternoon, and one of them says, Gary, why don't you ever have a pizza? I said, I can make you pizza. Really? From scratch? Not go buy something, it's frozen? I won't take any time. So they came in the kitchen and watched how I made from scratch using coconut flour and brown rice flour and quinoa flour and some egg replacer. It's comes from a different root, cassava root, and blended that up and added an oil and solidified it and put it into a dehydrator. Well, lo and behold, in about 2 hours to 3 hours, I started this early, I had a crust. And then you can make fresh tomato sauce. Easy. You take your tomatoes, like Roma tomatoes, and you dip them in boiling water just for about 30 seconds. And then that means the skin can come right off. And then you puree the rest of the tomato in, let's say, whatever seasonings you like. Oregano, of course, the most common seasoning, but I like to use some blends together. And so I made a sauce, and then I had some baked tofu, and I thinly sliced that. And then I had tempeh, a bacon tempeh. And so I thinly sliced the tempeh, which is great for people who want something that tastes like meat but isn't. And I made that as if it were pepperoni. And then I put in some thinly sliced shiitake mushrooms, and even chopped up some lion's mane mushroom, and then put some olive oil on it, and then heated it all up in the dehydrator, and then took it out, and they said it tasted great. Oh, by the way, I put a vegan cheese on it, which is also made from coconut. And they couldn't tell the difference. Does it take a little time? Yeah, it takes a little time. But if you're doing something with your friends, then it's just part of the whole social context of enjoying something. So you see, whether it's potato chips or pizzas or hamburgers, you can make anything that's a real junk food, but you can make it a healthy food. That's what I did when I was working in the school system to supply healthy meals for students. I would create the recipes and then go into a school and see how the kids liked it. And as long as you got the right seasonings, as long as it has the right mouthfeel, they'll love it. I mean, I'm sure many of you have tried the dairy-free ice creams, right? And the smoother ones you get, and that would be with cashews, cashew oil and blended cashews have the same kind of rich, creamy feel in the mouth as does a regular milk and cream, but it's non-dairy. And you can also throw in some probiotics, and you can't taste them, but they're in there. So where a normal yogurt might give you 1,000, which is a tiny amount of probiotics, you could put 1 billion, 100 billion, 100 billion probiotics in one little homemade yogurt. So you can do a lot of things if you want to. Go to GaryandAll.com also, and you can see some of the cookbooks and take some recipes. Also, every week, we give free recipes out on our newsletter to show people how to make a transition. Now, not everybody needs a transition. Not everybody wants something that tastes like meat. They don't want meat. And that's fine too. So let's continue here. So we've got, we're making ourselves some sweet potatoes and we're using the leaves. And this is what this showed, that it was very rich in nutrients. Now, another one is about strawberries and blueberries can cut your heart attack risk in women. This is from the University of East Anglia in the United Kingdom. Eating 3 or more servings of blueberries or strawberries per week can help women reduce the risk of a heart attack by almost 30%. That's a big deal. This is also corroborated with a study at Harvard School of Public Health. These berries, blueberries and strawberries, contain high levels of a bioactive compound called antho, A-N-T-H-O, cyanins, C-Y-A-N-I-N-S. And there's different types of these cyanins. There's the cyanins you find in grapes, proanthocyanins, then the anthocyanins you find in all the other berries. And these are a subgroup of the flavonoids. And the flavonoids are what you get when you have a good bunch of fruits and vegetables in the diet. This was published in the peer-reviewed journal Circulation, Journal of the American Heart Association. So how do you get all those blueberries and strawberries into you in enough quantity to be a functional food, meaning function to help prevent disease and to help your arteries dilate? Otherwise, they build up plaque and provide other risk factors if you're eating the standard American diet. Well, this was a part of the nurses' health study, and the nurses completed questionnaires of their diet over 18 years. And then they looked at how many people who were eating lots of blueberries and strawberries had, wow, a 32% reduced risk of having a heart attack compared to women who ate the least amount of fruits and vegetables. That's a big deal. So what I do is I will take the blueberries and wash them, of course, and then I blend them. By putting them in a blender, I can then pour them like a puree over a hot cereal, quinoa, amaranth, steel cut oatmeal, and I blend it in and roll it in. And that way you get a lot of it, and it's all digested, and it's a very soft fiber and really cleanses the intestine. So strawberries and blueberries, and I suggest you have maybe 3 days a week, and you can lower your risk of heart disease. And by the way, from the University of Turku, which is in Finland, a mother's health and diet during pregnancy can impact a child's later neurodevelopment. Maternal gestational diabetes, mellitus, may have unfavorable effects upon neurodevelopment of 2-year-old children. On the other hand, a mother's healthy, comprehensive plant-based diet supports the child's neurodevelopment. That's according to the University of Turku. So that's one of the reasons I have said for a long time that before you have an intentional pregnancy, do a 1-year detoxification, both the man and woman. This way, you're getting rid of defective cells, you're really rejuvenating your reproductive system, you're creating the healthiest possible sperm. Everything is based upon what you enter that process with. And the average American is entering it very toxic, even without being aware of it. So if you want a healthier mental development in your child with less inflammation, especially in the brain, then the mother's metabolism is important, that it be well-balanced, clean, exercising, taking the essential fatty acids, all that's a part of it. And from the University College London, midlife, moderate and vigorous physical activity levels associated with brain power. Your brain is simply healthier. This was published in the Journal of Epidemiology and Community Health. So the intensity levels are important for having good mental planning, organization skills. So 17 minutes of light to intense exercise a day does it. All right. And this was published in a journal that goes to all the doctors out there. There's a new study from the National Institutes of Health about vitamin D deficiency being associated with endothelial dysfunction. Researchers from the National Institutes of Health have found that when you don't have enough vitamin D, you're going to end up with damaged endothelial dysfunction, and that increases all types of problems. I won't go into the science, but it's type 1 interferon gene expression was looked at, and you don't want this. So you want healthy arteries. Therefore, having beet juice and pomegranates or pomegranate concentrate helps create healthier endothelium. Vitamin C and quercetin also help create healthier endothelium. Just one of these important things we don't think about, but we should, because the body has endothelial repair mechanisms. And how do we know that? Because years ago, a long time ago, over 30 years ago, a cardiologist was the first in the United States to take all the common conditions. We have to put stents in and coronary bypass and cutting out arteries that are clogged, etc., and putting people on medications. His name was Dr. Dean Ornish. And I went down to film him, interview him, and I was there where he had people exercising, eating a healthy plant-based diet, and de-stressing exercises. He reversed every condition imaginable, every condition. Now, just recently, I filmed him where he had 9 people who had to have heart transplants. The heart was so damaged, it couldn't be repaired. And yet he repaired every single one of them. Not one of those 9 had to have a heart transplant. You can see that in the documentary I made called Curing the Incurable. Well, so just imagine if you have a healthy plant-based diet and all the healthy oils, flaxseed oil, hemp oil, olive oil, coconut oil, then you're also helping the endothelium and you're helping the heart. Just a simple way that we can prevent heart attacks and strokes and live a longer life. We're going to take a break, and just remember this, that every day, if you want to find out what's really happening with honest reporting from some of the finest investigative journalists, professors, philosophers, activists, go to PRN.Live. From Richard Wolff in economics to hearing from Black Agenda Report, the real voices who are not going to be manipulated and played, who don't align automatically with something and then cherry pick what makes their truths true. But people look for universal truths. If we care about children, we should. And we care about minorities, and we should. Then why haven't we done a single thing to help the minorities and the children starving to death in the genocide in Yemen or in other countries where minerals are being exploited? Our hosts, our producers, focus on those issues that you will not see in the mainstream media. Or if you do see anything mentioned in the mainstream media, it's always manipulated. It's propaganda and biased. Ours is not. PRN.Live, and we are the #1 voice for the true progressives in this country. Back in a moment. Please stay with us.
Are you tired of closed-minded programming? Well, look no further than PRN.Live, the home for progressive voices.